on this Wednesday. How is everybody out there doing? Hoping well. Yes, sir. IG, where it needs to be. Go down the line. We got NBA. Yes, yes, indeed. Got to get a couple of these. The playing tournament on this Wednesday, winding down. A short week in some areas. Number of holidays. Good Friday, Easter, Patriots Day on the horizon. All right. Socials are good. Twitter is good. Okay, I see. Happy to see CP the franchise. He's talking about Knicks and Pistons. We're going to get into that tonight. YouTube is good. Hop back over to Twitch. The Twitch is rocking with me, so we're good across the board. Welcome to SandCity Sports, to the business. Yes, on the Wednesday edition, the play-in is going on right now live. I got it set up here. I'm liking how the NBA, one night we at TNT, other night ESPN. Okay, so I go through the different streaming services. So want to get the Kings and the Mavericks. I'm going Kings in this game. A little bit more continuity, right? Dallas decided to implode deliberately recently, meaning a month or so ago, the Luka debacle, which they're still trying to live down. It's not happening, right? Talking about what? No recording of press conferences now. What are we doing here? That is what? So people can't bring in cell phones? You know, when you have to take these type of measures, right? Like you're trying to roll the clock back, centuries. We deal with this sometimes in education, right? We're living in the 21st century, folks, right? Everything, never mind cell phones, never mind AI transcribing everything. Okay, as you're talking, they transcribe it and can, to the letter, to the comp, everything. And the Dallas Mavericks talking about, oh, you can't record our press conferences because you're being mean to Nico. You're being mean, okay? You're looking ridiculous. And by the way, you know what time it is, my people. You know what time it is, okay? Speaking of AI, speaking of transcribing, I'm keeping all of the receipts. Every single last way. One, okay? First of all, specific to the Thibs hateration, yes, we're going to and then to my New York Knicks, talking about three, who has the toughest man. I got a little bit, hiccups. We moving right through that. Who got the toughest first round matchup? Whether it's the LA Lakers matching up against the Minnesota Timberwolves, that is the toughest 3-6. But saying that my my New York Knicks are going to have trouble with the upstart Detroit Pistons, gentlemen sweep, folks. Gentlemen sweep at the most. And I want to establish it right now for the people. My New York Knicks will be mollywhopping the Detroit Pistons in game one. No two ways about that. Gonna mollywhop the Detroit Pistons in game one. Okay, if you get where I'm coming from. Go New York, go New York, go. Shout out to CP, the franchise. Shout out to Knicks Fan TV, which is doing what they're doing as SandCity Sports is going live right now. But it's a beautiful thing. Okay, playoff time, and I count the play-in as the playoffs. The playoffs is going on. The NBA, Adam Silver, staying consistent, current, on the cutting edge, in my opinion. All right, or innovating, in my opinion. And we have a situation where I love these games. He's playing. It diminishes. No. Okay, we're gonna add We're going to allow these opportunities. We're going to incentivize teams to get out of the play-in. And then, if you don't, you got some single elimination action. And it's calibrated particularly well. Okay, because if you're the seventh or the eighth seed and you otherwise would have gotten into the playoffs, then you can lose a game and still get in. Okay, but if you're the ninth and the 10th and you weren't in the first place, all right, you got to win too. Okay, you got to win too. And we are going to have some single elimination because, frankly, don't take the kindness for weakness. You've been given some generosity as a 9 and a 10 seed to get into. Okay, so yeah, you got to go the extra mile. You got to win 2 elimination games to be a part of it. If you're the 8th seed, 7th seed, okay, you can lose one, but then you better get that next one. We better get that next one against the 9 and 10 seed so that they don't take away what you have earned. All right, and so love the playing. Gives that people, NBA long season. Oh my goodness, and it doesn't start till Christmas. What is foolishness? I was going to use a word that I borrowed from the great Ken Burns in his documentary, mollycoddle, which is a word that I learned from the Roosevelt documentary, The Roosevelt. Shout out to Ken Burns and all of the different projects that he does. Um, mollycoddle is, what you would say about an individual, that they a little bit suspect, a little bit iffy, a little bit lukewarm, a little bit, fair weather. That's what mollycoddle. I can't use that in relation to the playing tournament at all because mollycoddle was what I was going to say in reference to, those fans that think the NBA season is too long, which is outlandish. 82 games, perfect number. Okay. And we're serious about this basketball, and we're gonna have, we don't want to restrict, all right, these pastimes that we have. You want to allow for as much as possible. I got no problem with 162 baseball games. You play as long as you can when the weather is amenable. Okay, you want to get out. We want to have a full season. And this side, the seasons are too long, and if it's not instant, immediate, I can't. I lose my That's foolishness. Okay, NBA season, 82 games, wonderful. But this is a journey. What's next? Boston Marathon is coming up on Monday. Oh, it's too long. Why can't it just be like 10 miles? This is a marathon. It's too long. What I mean? I can't concentrate. Get out of here with this. Okay, a journey is a journey. It's supposed to be rigorous. Okay, by the way, shout out to the Barkley Marathons. If you're interested in a good documentary, I'm not sure where you can find it. Got to get this for you on the screen. Hope everybody out there is doing well. We got a lot to get into. Okay, so we're going in. We still have some work in the work week to get going on. The work week is not over, but this is when SandCity Sports gets down. This is. Hold on, I got to let my people know that we're going on. As I said, that this is we doing what we doing, but we coming into a little bit of rest. We coming into some time for rest. In terms of Patriots Day, Good Friday, Easter Sunday, time for family, a time of, different faith traditions. Okay. So we have that. We're coming into some communal time. Still got the work week, but we're coming into some communal time. But we're right on the edge of it. So that's I feel right. You feel kind of good. Let me just let folks know that this episode is going on if they want to jump on, and that's of course right. That's of course for anybody. If you're coming with something positive, if you're coming with something productive, you are welcome on SandCity Sports. There's no two ways about it. All right. And so let me just let folks know. Okay. And we're gonna go from there. All right. And we're gonna say, uh, let's. Okay, so I don't have the game. I'm gonna try to get the game on. That open invitation that we put out there. Let's just go across. Okay, Facebook is looking good. IG is looking good. All right, the Twitter, the YouTube, and Twitch are good. We are going to do some, right? We do sports and we also do culture. And this is also a place of just community and collaboration and conversation. Um, so I put it out there, to the people, however many are out there in television land. I certainly appreciate. Shout out to Shane from Des Moines of the Maryland Militia. Certainly appreciate the shout outs that he has done recently. It just means the world. Okay, again, this is my passion project, and I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy being, my, what I mean, my that little light, that I'm gonna let it shine. Okay, it doesn't mean that we have delusions of grandeur. There's so many talented people doing so many great things, and it might not be catch on and you know what I mean. But I'm going to strive to be nominated for a Wemby. That's going to be a goal of mine. Okay, might not happen, but hey, it's a goal. Hey, you know what I mean. Why not us? Why not me? Okay, but clearly, this is grassroots, indie, and type of enterprise. But love to do it, and I say that I just appreciate the feedback that comes in. So shout out to Shane from Des Moines. Shout out to the Maller Militia. Looking forward to being able to check in with Big Ben consistently going into a vacation week. If those of us in education, this is a big checkpoint. April vacation. We made it this far, and now we can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Plenty of ways to go, and we enjoy and we make the most of every single school year. But it's particularly in New England, right? Or the Northeast, I'll say, because I grew up in the tri-state, right? So when we coming back from April vacation, when the weather starts to turn around, that's huge. That's huge. You got to battle through the winter. You got to battle. Old man winter is. You know what I mean? Old man winter is getting you. Even though we don't have as much snow as I don't want to jinx it. I don't jinx it. The snowstorms aren't hitting. Shout out to the blizzard of '78. Snowstorms aren't hitting like they once did. But you never know. Old man, when they gonna come back? Now that I said that, he gonna come back with a vengeance. Um, but it's a really cool thing when you get back from April vacation and you can say, listen, weather is nice. We can see, and we're gonna make hay while the sun shines. Now, in terms of that, we're gonna talk about the Heat and the Bulls. Sometimes I dream that he is me. You got to see that's how I dream to be. Boom, boom, boom. The dream I move. Okay, we got to get this for you on the screen. Got to get this for you on the screen. Because I've noted, we talked about, people, the NBA is too long. Now we here for all of this. Play-in tournament, all-star game, what they've been doing. We're here for all of it, folks. Okay. As they say, you got to make hay while the sun is shining. You got to get it while the getting is good. Okay. And I think this is appropriate because we do have Marathon Monday coming up. SandCity Sports, we're looking to be in the building either on that Monday. Won't be doing it right because Sand City is a nighttime. The nighttime is the right time. And the marathon is obviously crack of dawn type of a thing. So I'm not going to be going live for the Boston Marathon, but there's going to be plenty of coverage either on that Monday or right back on Tuesday. So it's going to be a good week. Next week, have some time to cross the T's and dot the I's. Plenty to do, of course. But we will be discussing the Boston Marathon, which, right? There's a reason. What did Jimmy Dugan say? What did we learn from A League of Their Own? All right. If it wasn't hard, everybody would do it. When we're going through our go through out there, folks. If it wasn't hard, everybody would do it. The hard is what makes it great. Shout out to Jimmy Dugan. Shout out to A League of Their Own. Shout out to Penny Marshall. Film stands the test of time, then and now. We are the members of the All American League. We come from cities near and far. We got Canadians, Irish ones, and Swedes. We're all for one. We're all American. Shout out to A League of Their Own. Penny Marshall went beautiful. Okay, the hard is what makes it great. Okay, so now that we've established the NBA season, 82 games, it's a beautiful thing. We're here for all of it. We're going to get into the play-in. I'm gonna talk about my New York Knicks because people that are out there been having some things. I keep talking what you're talking. Okay, I'm SandCity Sports. This first game, the Knicks, we're gonna lay hands on Detroit. Okay, we're gonna lay hands on them. Game one. Keep this game one. It's going down. For all the talk and this and that and the third. People keep saying what you're saying. Tom Thibodeau, he's on all of it. I want to hear all of it. We're going to please, we're going to come back to this moment. I'm telling you right now, gentlemen sweep, the Knicks laying hands on Detroit in game 1 at MSG as we move forward into this playoff journey after a season where Cleveland stole the thunder. They did. The OKC Thunder are OKC. I know a lot of people picking Boston. You better watch OKC right now. Okay, and Boston, I've been saying it. Boston's got some work to do. This year isn't last year, and this is not the same organization. It's not the same organization. Yeah, we have the same leadership. I know the ownership is changing. That's going to take time. But the Celtics are missing Jeff Van Gundy, who finds himself where? On the bench for the Clippers, who are Denver. You want to mess around with Mike Malone? You're going home in the first round. That's what you get. Clippers, first round. Van Gundy on the bench with first-rate organization. Ty Lue doing his thing. Lawrence Frank doing his thing in the front office. Obviously, Daddy Warbucks, Steve Ballmer, okay, overseeing it all. Intuit Dome, arena of the future. Okay, and shout out to the Barnstable High School Red Raiders. Okay, class of, I ain't going to put it out there, you know what I mean? But when he graduated, one Mr. Sean Fine. Player development. First-rate organization. Okay, that was at the top of the list in terms of institutional strength, and then they added Jeff Van Gundy. What does this have to do with the Celtics? You better watch yourself right now. You better watch yourself. Right, the Celtics are drawing Orlando in the first round. Okay, you know what I mean? But Orlando's going to come in here. Jamal Mosley. I know they're missing Suggs, but young and hungry. Okay, so Celtics are handling them, but, you know, Orlando might get a game or two. They might. Missing Jeff Van Gundy, missing Charles Lee in the brain trust. That's going to factor in. Yes. Okay. Cleveland, we know what they're about. We know who their general is, Kenny Atkinson, who wasn't fit to coach the Nets. Well, he was fit, and he has that thing rolling. So Cleveland, that's going to be a monster of a series, and you keep disrespecting Thibs. I'm telling you right now, it's going 7 games, Celtics and Knicks in round 2. It's going 7. Buckle up. Buckle that seatbelt up. My people, get it tight. 7. Okay. Keep saying what you're saying. We're going to come back to this. I'm telling you right now, my Knicks are going to talk about Detroit. I respect Detroit. By the way, you're going to be hearing about Detroit because, you know, this nonsense that's going on in Phoenix. We just firing championship coaches every single year, talking about changes needed. Talking about when you come into it, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I respect the ownership. I like the things that they're doing in terms of television contracts, making it more accessible, lowering the concession prices, all these different type of things. But it's ridiculous. Monty Williams, coach of the year caliber, out of there. Frank Vogel, NBA championship coach. Okay, been true to this. Frank Vogel been true to this since the early 2000s. Out of there. Coach Bud, championship coach, coming from the Greg Popovich tradition. Okay, he knows his business. You brought Coach Bud in. If you're the Phoenix Suns, who was it that you was up 2 games to none against? Looking like Phoenix was about to get that elusive championship. And who came back and won 4 straight against you? Milwaukee Bucks under the capable leadership of? That's right, Coach Bud. Then you brought him in to be your coach. You give him a half a season, okay, with all of these entitled stars, these bad attitude load management stars. I'm calling everybody out. If you can't learn from Coach Bud and make the best of a situation with Coach Bud, who knows his business specifically from the offensive end, or Coach Vogel, who knows his business specifically from a defensive end, it's on you. Don't talk to me about why you're upset about making the All-Star game. I ain't saying no names, but I'm saying it. Well, I didn't make the All-Star game, and you know, win some games. Got a bunch of talent. Got a coach that knows how to scheme some things up. You're in a great city, sunny, majority of the year. Now they coming into that Death Valley heat right now. I got family out there. They coming into the Death Valley heat right now. Okay, but for the other 9 months, beautiful. You deal with the wildlife. There's some wildness out there. You got to deal with that, you know. But all this talk. By the way, people are sleeping on the Rockets, and that's exactly my point. You're sleeping on the Rockets, who young lions. Okay, and the line that's leading them, Ime Udoka. You want to talk about you want to talk about hunger? I remember we was in college talking about my roommates. You know, we was talking about, you love to hear the story how the thugs live and worry. They duck down in car seats, mandatory. Okay, talking about Najee Jones in college. I remember my roommate specifically talking about that Illmatic, widely considered one of, if not the greatest hip hop albums of all time, the Illmatic. Remember this conversation. Being in college, early 2000s. I'm dating myself. It is what it is. Listening to Power 94.5. I was in college during the time we were listening to that live when Ether dropped on Power 94.5. Live. As that was going, you know, the Jay-Z and Nas was going back. It was a beautiful time. Listening to Ether live on 94.5, as it, you know what I mean? And just for the culture, right? My roommate, he said, I respect Illmatic because that was a hungry man's album. That was a hungry man's album. That Najee Jones, that anonymous lyricist from Queensbridge who the world didn't know, okay, but he knew, and his crew knew the talent that was there, but the world didn't know. That's the foundation that created Illmatic. And the rest is history. They teaching that class in the Ivy Leagues at Harvard. Yes, the Illmatic. Hungry Man's album. What am I talking about? Y'all sleeping on the Houston Rockets. They got young lions and a hungry man that's leading them that has something to prove. That's how they got that 2 seed. People are in for a rude awakening in that first round. You're talking about Golden State as if it's 2015, 16, 17. It's 2025, folks. Okay? You into a rude awakening when you talk about Houston. We're going to get to the Barkley Marathons in a second. But this is a team that is loaded with young talent. Notice they're the 2 seed, and the Phoenix Suns out the playoffs. Notice we're talking about Amen Thompson, who none of you knew. I knew him because he was on my fantasy team, and I let him go, and I'm kicking myself. But I got Stephon Castle, so Amen Thompson for defensive player of the year. He's a defensive Swiss Army knife, just causing havoc. Who put him in that position? And you're gonna see, Jimmy Butler. Amen Thompson gonna be out there causing havoc for Golden State. Accepted that role, mastered that role. Okay, not worrying about shots and no. I'm mastering my role. Sangoon in the post, Kevin McHale style. They should have had 2 All-Stars. Jalen Green should have been an All-Star. Okay, his jump shot, water. Don't touch no rim when he shoots that ball. You're gonna see it if you haven't been watching. Jabari Smith, top 5 pick, power forward, versatile, buckets. Dylan Brooks in tremendous shape out there again. Another defensive junkyard dog that's going to be in your business, in your grill. I.e. UConn versus Duke in 99. Shout out to that throwback. Huskies came in, Duke, invincible team, so much talent, NBA guys, and you know what I mean, Elton Brand and Corey Maggette and you know what I mean, Avery. A couple of them went pro a little bit too early. Shane Battier was in the mix. That 99 team was filthy. That was the year before J. Will, Boozer, and Dunleavy came to town, by the way, in terms of how Coach K had it rolling. Duke is actually losing a couple interesting. Con Kneppel is out of there. We know that Flag is out of there. I think Maluk is going to be out of there as well. I thought Maluk and Con Kneppel could have stayed another year and increased their draft status. But again, this brave new world of NIL and just 1-year propositions. I thought Kneppel and Maluk would have stayed to play with the Boozer brothers to win a championship with them. But they're like, we're out. We do this thing for like 6 months and then we on to the next. So interestingly enough. Shire is going to reload. Boozer Brothers, they're going to be right back there. They were the best team, most talented wise in the tournament. But they just did not execute, and they looked like freshmen when the games got close. And you saw Clayton Jr., he's a senior. It makes a difference. That's why Florida, and some foolishness from Houston, some absolute foolishness from Houston, veteran team that should have known better. But the Duke group is moving on, and the new Duke group is going to be coming in to keep things rolling. All right. I bring that up just because, again, you look at the team that Coach K had in '99, and I'm dating myself. Go ahead, and he just brought another whole crew right back in 2000. Then it took Coach K a little bit of time to adjust to the one and dones, and then the rest is history from there. In terms of Duke, hungry men are going to be out there coming into this playoffs, folks. All right. So the Rockets, with that mentality, with that attitude, hope folks are prepared. My Knicks, I'm telling you, the disrespect and the slights. Okay. Okay. The second season is upon us. Okay. We're going to lay hands. Okay. Okay. We're going to put them heavy hands on the Pistons, them heavy ones. Shout out to this upstart team, but you're in for that awakening. Trust and believe. We're going to come back to this clip. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. We're coming back to this clip. But in terms of Detroit, and so the Rockets, hungry. The Suns, they looking, if they, you know what I mean, they looking thirsty. Not the good kind of thirst. They looking thirsty for Cancun and vacations and social media flaunting and all the rest of the nonsense. Because for the Rockets to be the 2 seed and the Suns to not even be in the tournament in the play-in, when the Rockets have young Lions with a bunch of things to prove, and the Suns have all these max contract guys who should be earning the respect that people put on their name, but one is ascending and one is plummeting, and you're going to put all the blame on Coach Bud, championship coach? Stop that. Stop that. And the fact of the matter, it doesn't matter who you bring in a coach, because Booker is burnt out, and you know what I mean? Part of it's on him, but it's not working. It's not going to work. You were on the verge of a championship. You've tumbled that all the way down to the bottom. You can bring in Phil. It doesn't matter who you bring in. You burn through 3 very NBA Finals level coaches. Monty, Bud, Vogel. Been coaches, great coaches for years. Finals level. You burn through all 3 of them. It doesn't matter who you bring in. You could bring Coach K out of retirement. It wouldn't make any difference. This is institutional. All right. This is a bureaucratic incompetence. Point, period, end of story. And within that, folks, the connection to Detroit is Mr. Booker is ready to return to the motherland. He's ready to get back to Michigan. That's what I'm hearing, and I think it's going down. Bradley Beal, you did that to yourself. You can't do anything with him. Nobody gonna pay him $50 million, so he's stuck. He likes Phoenix, you know what I mean? I'll stay at the Copacabana. You're gonna pay me regardless. It's a beautiful city. You know what I mean? I'm going only where I want to go. And what contending team? He's coming from Washington. Now he's in a warm weather, so he wants to go to a warm weather contending team. And who won? Nobody. So he's gonna be just collecting his checks and sitting in street and getting in, hanging out in street clothes and just waiting, for the one contract, and then he'll take less money to go where he has to go, but he's going nowhere. So therefore, and Booker and Durant, Durant are, Durant, much as he loves basketball, he only got so many more games left in him. Speaking of OKC, they shouldn't have got rid of Harden for Serge Ibaka. We remember that. They should have banked on Harden and got rid of Westbrook, but hindsight's 2020. It's 2020, but and then when they reunited with Harden in Brooklyn, disaster there. But as far as Durant, he's a man without a country. Right? Once out of Phoenix, I mean, I honestly, and it doesn't even seem like, I would have said go to the Lakers, but that's not going to work. Clippers? Go to the Clippers. Right? He shows up for work. People seem to be of the opinion that Kawhi Leonard is going to continue to show up for work. I'll believe it when I see it. Excuse me. I will believe that when I see it. If Kawhi Leonard decides to be healthy and show up for work, which we haven't seen in like 6 years, but if that's the case, the Clippers can break through and lose to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the conference finals. They're that good. They've been that good. And it comes from the The Zubats, the Norman Powells, the ones that trust the process, the quiet ones that aren't about all this flossing and drama and foolishness and nonsense, but are ready when the time comes. We're going to talk about what the Miami Heat did on the road, by the way, against a good Bulls team. This is a tough hit for the Bulls, who are a quality organization. We are going to get to the Barkley Marathons, by the way. I haven't forgotten about that. But the Bulls are a quality organization. Unlike the Suns, they don't just keep reinventing the wheel, the stupid money at the table. Jerry Reinsdorf, he's been this. He understands what it is. Arturas Karnisovas is a first-rate general manager. He built the Denver Nuggets championship team. Billy Donovan is a quality, capable coach. First year in the NBA, what did he do? Made it to the conference finals with that Oklahoma City team. He got a 67-win San Antonio team with Kawhi Leonard up and out of there in 6 games. That was the end of the San Antonio window. It should have been San Antonio and Golden State in the finals. Western Conference Finals, 2016. 73-win Warriors team. Yes. It should have been San Antonio and them in the Western Conference Finals. We forget that. 67 wins out of there in the divisional round. Who did they lose to? OKC, who was up 3-1 against Golden State under the capable leadership of Billy Donovan. He can coach. It just has not, frankly, I think the not having Lonzo killed them, and reason being because the team that they had with DeRozan and Levine, they needed a point guard. They needed somebody to just, and without him, it was working when they had those 3 long, all 6'5", 6'6". Lonzo just, was doing what he was meant to do, which is pass, distribute, just lead the team. And that not having him, and he's there, he's not there, he's injured, all the, they needed a point guard to help to make it work between Levine and DeRozan, and they didn't have that point guard. And Kobe White is not that guy. They needed like a Jason Kidd type of a guy that's going to distribute first, that's going to be positive, like a Steve Nash type of a guy, and they didn't have that, and so that iteration just never worked. Where am I going with this, folks? Miami Heat trusting the process, people complaining about those 3 and 4 hour practices. But when it comes playoff time, people that you have forgotten about, Davion Mitchell out of Baylor, won a national championship, known as a defensive, right, for his defensive prowess. You put him up and under the Heat leadership, trusting the process, 0.5, whatever body fat, whatever it is that they allow, a true basketball Spartan. They smacked the Bulls tonight at home. Okay? All right? And Atlanta's in some trouble. Because the Heat in the playoffs, with Pat Riley, who we saw at the stadium, him and Zoe, the Heat are better on the road when it comes playoff time, when it comes money time. And remember, they went to an NBA Finals from the play-in before. Okay? Handle business tonight. And however they do, you know what I mean? Pat Riley don't believe in the tanking, don't believe in the prima donna nonsense. They don't like it. And how can, you're going to be unhappy in a beautiful city? All right, it's a beautiful city and you're going to enjoy it, but you're going to work. Ain't going to be no 2 ways about it. And that's the type of culture that my New York Knicks are going to be bringing into this playoffs, and people are going to learn. You're going to learn this nonsense. Tom Thibodeau done brought prosperity back to New York, and people want to talk some nonsense. Keep the receipts are being kept, folks. Okay, now, again, this we'd like to do, you know what I mean? And this idea, I just continually push back, and everything is too, everything is too, long, and we can't concentrate on anything, and all this other nonsense that I don't agree with. No, folks. There are certain things where you do sit down and you do have endurance. So we're talking about endurance. Talking about the Boston Marathon coming up on Monday, Patriots Day. But there's marathons, and then in this world that we live in, you have these, crazy, wonderful, wild, David Goggins like people that. Then there's ultra marathons. Check out the Barkley marathons.
First rule of Barkley is don't talk about it. If you talk about it, then you're not going to be part of it.
Somebody may have said something, oh, you think that's hard. You should look at this race they have down in Tennessee.
Barkley's at their own edge of possibility, impossibility.
If you're going to face a real challenge, it has to be a real challenge. You can't accomplish anything without the possibility of failure.
Ultra marathon.
It was big news. He was a famous bad guy. And he got out of this inescapable prison.
Most people would be better off with more pain in their lives.
The primary villain is the course.
And for some people, just to get back to camp alive is all they want in the world.
So this is one film. Shout out to the Barkley Marathons. Bring it back up. Again, speaking of, 82 games. I mean, it's too long. It's boring, Later for that foolishness. Idea that too much of a good thing can't be. What are you talking about? It's a beautiful thing. Should be a journey. Should be hard. But Barkley Marathon, the algorithm recommended it some years ago. I watched it and I was just blown away. Just with the perspective, again, I'm a big fan of David Goggins. You Can't Hurt Me. In this society of people that lives on the other end, right? I live on the end of complaining a lot of times. I tend to just complain about A, B, and C and blaming, the economy and the rat race and everything under the sun. But the folks that are in that society of marathons and ultra marathons, they harness all of that frustration and aggravation and uncertainty and anxiety. And they just, harness all of that and turn it into effort, to do these unimaginable things. And I think it gives us all perspective. We're complaining about it, you know what I mean? Remember somebody said, it's not your income that's the reason you're broke. It's your spending habits. It felt like I was, assaulted. Like, you talking about me? Just because I can't pass a Krispy Kreme donuts. Is that the reason? Even though Krispy Kreme is delicious, maybe not the best in preparation for an ultra marathon, but it's certainly delicious. Shout out to Krispy Kreme. We don't have enough Krispy Kremes in New England, as far as I'm concerned. Certainly on the Cape. Maybe I should end that drought and invest in a Krispy Kreme. The people would love it. The tourists, everybody would appreciate the Krispy Kreme. Okay. So a lot of different things, a lot of different angles, and let's see. Let me see if I can't get it. It's ridiculous. This game should be. No. I think I'm in the wrong place with this. Let me just quickly pour production and see if I can find. Yes, I'm looking for the NBA playoffs, man. What's happening? And you're just giving me this. You know what? People, I apologize. You know what I mean? Because this one is on me. Let me get this one. Take care of this volume. It's ridiculous. Because I'm looking for. I don't know about you. And then just a quick aside, because I'm on the wrong platform. I don't know if you're like me. In this regard, but you sit back and there's so many great apps. Come on, hold on. Right? I there's so many great apps that Hulu and ESPN and Disney right? I'm not giving up my Disney. Shout out to DuckTales. We're going to shout out to DuckTales. Okay, I ain't giving up my Disney. And you have all these apps, and it's like, man, I don't even utilize as much as I should be these apps that I have that are tremendous. I'll never give up ESPN app just based on 30 for 30s. I won't do it. I won't do it ever. Okay, whether I just having 30 for 30, what? And I'm dating myself, but people would remember before 30 for 30, there was, oh yeah. We talking that Kings Mavericks. Mavericks up 12. What? Just give me the lie. I like how they have it in Spanish. I need to step up. Hold on. What are we doing here? I got the ESPN Plus. What's going on here, man? This is crazy. Bad production. I gotta visit ESPN Plus. What the hit activate? I'm sorry, folks. Bad production. We're gonna rectify this in a second, but I want to have this game on so we can follow it. They're telling me I gotta go to ESPN.com/activate. I already have my subscription. Okay, but we're gonna follow the you know what I mean? Y'all want the code? I got the code for you. What is this? What are we doing? We're doing X6 Bravo Delta for the you know what I mean for the military side. 5 3H. Let's get it going on, man. All right, boo. I'm signed in. Check it off, man. Here we go. Let's get the Mavs game going on. Two organizations moving in the wrong direction. Get rid of a good coach. Getting rid of a generational player. All right, what are we looking at? Okay, Sacramento down 11. Shout out to Dallas. Anthony Davis showing up, this is surprising to me. But same time, mama, there goes that man. And I'm talking about Jason Kidd. Who got a coaching opportunity too soon, frankly, right? When he was coaching with the Nets, I believe it was, and he got another opportunity too soon with the Bucks, and he just, you need to learn your craft. You need to have apprenticeships. That's why people want to sleep on my man Tom Thibodeau. You're going to learn. You're going to learn about the years and the decades that man put in. But y'all wanna disrespect my coach. Ain't having this. We're gonna get tips for you on the screen. I mean, you want to disrespect. You're gonna disrespect me. We're gonna get this for the people. And we're going to talk about another coach that's doing his thing. That's Jason Kidd. We're going to speak on Jason Kidd in a second, who has Dallas up 13. Long ways to go. Talk about a dude. Talk about that young Thibs, who was a ball player at the Division III level. We're going to leave young Thibs on the screen for you. Okay? y'all finna learn. Okay? And then Thibs did, after the Bulls, who should have never gotten rid of him, there was the Timberwolves. He was in Minnesota, who had a stacked team that he, broke through, got him to the playoffs. With Jeff Teague, with Andrew Wiggins, with Jimmy Butler came over, Karl Anthony Towns, right? That Minnesota team had talent. Then they wanted to, bicker and yada, 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 complain and some other nonsense. But but this is the young Thibs, and Thibodeau, like many, the Sam Presties of the world, okay, and played Division III basketball, came up, as a D3 player, had the love for the game. The Van Gundys are of this ilk, and then said, this is going to be my life, and I'm going to start from nothing, scratch, and I'm just going to continue. I'm just going to stick at it. I'm going to stay with it. And decades later, they get to these opportunities that they have, but it doesn't happen overnight. Okay, and so the connection to this playing tournament right now, as Dallas goes up 17, wild, and as Jason Kidd, leapfrogged all of that and just got a head coaching opportunity just because he was a good dude and had connections. And so, like, all right, you can be an NBA head coach, and we can just skip that 2 decades of work and grinding. And he wasn't ready in Brooklyn, and he wasn't ready with Milwaukee. By the way, who came in after him in Milwaukee? A guy by the last name of Budenholzer. Another lifer, longtime assistant. All right, and then Jason Kidd showed the commitment, and he was that assistant with the Lakers, had the relationship with LeBron, integral in the Redeem team, mending those fences between LeBron and Kobe Bryant, okay, being a great, you know what I mean? And so he was a Lakers longtime assistant and just was there with the Lakers through the ups, through the downs, and just stayed with it, was with the Lakers in the bubble and stayed with it until the Dallas opportunity opened up, because Luka was being Luka. Let's not forget. Okay, is Rick Carlisle a solid coach? Does Rick Carlisle know his business? Are the Indiana Pacers going to be a serious tough out in this playoffs under the capable leadership of a one Mr. Rick Carlisle, who was the assistant coach for the Indiana Pacers in 2000 when they went to the finals under the capable leadership of head coach who? A one Mr. Larry Bird, a one Mr. Rick Carlisle, who built up a Detroit Piston team in 01 and 02 and 03 and hands it off to one Mr. Larry Brown to win a championship in 04. People put decades into this to be generals, 3 and 4 stars. Everybody can't be 4-star, but 2 and 3, and we got some 4s, but everybody can't be the 4. Let's this whole Luka situation. Yeah, Luka, he needs, he's a needy guy as a player. He's not like a different stars. Tim Duncan, I'm Popovich told, when your best player is your most coachable player. Larry Bird, same thing. Michael Jordan, same thing. If you're about winning and helping me get better, let's go. You don't have, you don't just because you didn't, you know what I mean? We didn't have hash browns on a private jet, and I ordered hash browns, but you got home fries, and so now I'm not going to talk to you. What are we doing? This foolishness, and it's craziness. The college kids don't like anybody, so I'm going to leave. The NBA don't like anybody, so I'm going to leave. Thank goodness the NFL, the shield, the system is the system. And if you're Tom Brady level, your Bruce Arians will go up to the front office, but only if you're Tom Brady and you got 7 championships. The rest of you, the standard is the standard. Get in line. Meanwhile, the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers, you stay your behind on the bench. The standard is the standard. And I think the Steelers, they you know what I mean? But you don't teach an old dog new tricks. Speaking of the NFL and the Steelers and the Aaron Rodgers situation, you don't do that. Okay, the Steelers, 3 coaches in the last quarter, forget about quarter century, 3/4 of a century. Okay, a first-rate organization, understanding the importance of stability. Aaron Rodgers, my way or the highway, been that way since he got his opportunity. Not early in his career, but certainly as he had success. Aaron Rodgers, you know what I mean? You got to do things his way, or you're gonna, and that's oil and vinegar. Steelers be much better off getting a system, a Kirk Cousin, you know what I mean? Somebody like that, capable, talented, can execute, to run what they run, and just being fine, rather than Aaron Rodgers has that neon talent. He still has some of the neon talent left, but he's a culture killer, a chemistry killer. And the Steelers are all about those things. Back to my man Tom Thibodeau, who's built those things up in New York. Go New York, go New York, go. Shout out to CP the Franchise and Knicks Fan TV. All right, it's going down for this playoff run. Excuse me. So Jason Kidd right now is doing his thing because this Dallas Mavericks team, injuries aplenty, instability all over the place. You lose your two best players because ownership had a tantrum because they couldn't get everything they wanted when they wanted it. People in Texas said you can't build a casino right now. You know what I mean? Never mind the fact that, yes, we're bringing gaming into sports, but it's crazy. I don't know what these owners are thinking. You could just have a casino attached to the arena. You have the Bellagio, like you just, you're in the Bellagio and then you just walk into the football stadium and you're going to tell me there's not going to be questions about ethics and the integrity of the game when the casino is literally in the same building as the stadium? Do we forget the Black Sox? Do we remember what Ken Burns did in his baseball documentary? Might have to get that for you on the screen. Got my man Tom Thibodeau so people can put respect on that man's name. You see that mullet? It's Thibs slander. All the receipts have been kept. All of them. I hope we revisit this. Game 1, Madison Square Garden. Y'all gonna learn. Y'all gonna learn. Respect to the Pistons. Respect to Bickerstaff. Respect to Trajan Langdon. Stupid money at the table. Monty Williams. He told you he was burnt out. Right? We just keep thinking money can solve human frailty and, humanity. Money cannot solve humanity. How many times do we need to, you can't solve it. Whether it's Monty Williams, who's just burnt out, needs to get away, you just keep throwing money at him as if that's, or the young diaper dandies that don't know who the heck they are. You just throw a bunch of money at them, and that's going to solve things because we talked about that last episode with that great clip with Will Smith talking about rock bottom and cliff top. Over and over and over again, we see the same thing. Rock bottom, you hit that, and you know what I mean. Sometimes, unfortunately, you have to be low down, and then you make those structural changes, and you move in a more positive direction. Will Smith talked about cliff top. You have everything, and you still feel the same way, which is a different type of rock bottom. And so you got to make some changes. All right? What does this have to do with Tom Thibodeau? And, these organizations, Detroit made a ridiculous move, and, now they've made the correct move with Bickerstaff, and they're moving in the right direction. The Suns, same thing. Mont Ishbia, you just keep throwing good money after bad. With the coaching carousel, with the, we're going to win now, catch lightning in a bottle. How long has Daddy Warbuck, Steve Ballmer, been at this? Been at it for a while. He built his super team under the capable leadership of Jerry West, greatest executive in basketball and possibly sports history, the late, great Jerry West, out of East Bank, West Virginia. Lost a brother in World War II. Lost auto series to the Boston Celtics. Got him to 1-72. Took all of that pain and turned it, into dynasty after dynasty. The Magic Johnson dynasty. The Kobe Bryant dynasty. The Steph Curry dynasty. The Kevin Durant iteration of the Steph Curry dynasty. And then he built up the Los Angeles Clippers. Had Kawhi, had PG, had that thing ready. Should have won a championship in the bubble. Did it. And so they've had to just move forward and make the best of what they've had. That window closed. Your 2 stars can never be healthy. And so we just move forward as best we can. And so are they a championship level team? No. Could they get to the Western Conference Finals? Yes. Okay, because of the continuity, the collaboration, the efficiency, the sophistication, all of these things, right? That stability provide all of these things that the Suns lack. Trying to go for broke and essentially a college model. The college model is broken. And you did it to yourself. Not allowing or recognizing the inevitable. The impact, the role of the players in the multi-billion-dollar industry that college sports is. So now you just have the wild, wild west. And, this is college. Again, what are we talking about here? Would any of this work for like an actual student? I'm going to do my freshman year at St. John's. I'm going to do my sophomore year at North Carolina. I'm going to do my junior year at UNLV. And I'll do my senior year at Florida State University. It's going to be my college experience. Yeah. Going to establish some lifelong relationships. Going to lay down roots, in some places, to have a foundation, to go back, over the generations. One generation went to this school, another one generation, you just develop those ties, those connections. All while skipping around every single year. It's absolutely ridiculous. In terms of, like development, mental development, most certainly. Social development. But that's the model. And we keep watching college sports because we've kept watching it, because it's a cultural thing. But like the actual, like the quality of the game, is sliding. You don't get a Patrick Ewing or a Michael Jordan without 3 years at North Carolina, 3 years at Georgetown. Now, yes, there are one and dones, and the one and done, yes, but the one and dones are not everybody. Everybody is not a Zion. Everybody is not, Karl Anthony. Like there's, one and dones are one and dones, and everybody's not Cooper Flag. Right, the best of the rest, you need to grow where you're planted. Right, Steph Curry was not a one and done. He needed 3 years at Davidson with the Silver Fox. And we're not getting that. Okay. And so, yes, we still watch and it's exciting, but the quality of the game is diminishing. Right. Back to the Phoenix Suns, because that's how they're operating on these 1 year propositions. We're going to do this now, we're going to do this, and you seem to be surprised that you missed the doggone playing. The Clippers have been building this thing for close to a decade. Well over 5 years. Zubac having been there. Ty Lue having been there. Norman Powell, 3-4 years. James Harden now 2-3. You know what I mean? These guys, and after all of the, want this and I want that. I'm not, when you find your level, you start to have some gratitude, some appreciation for some things. You forge together some connections. Who cares about the star power because you're winning. This is what happens in baseball so often. How did the doggone San Francisco Giants win all those World Series? When their payroll is like, a quarter of what these other, they talk about Moneyball. Other people are buying players. We're buying wins. Okay. The Suns have been trying to buy, and they're not buying wins. They bought up all these players, and it's not worked out. And it's not going to work out, frankly, until you you know, to you hire somebody that's capable and you take your hands off, i.e. George Steinbrenner, when he had to be banned from baseball because he couldn't let go and had to micromanage everyone and everything 24/7, 365. And when he finally let go, George Steinbrenner, and he let his baseball people be baseball people, what did you get? The dynasty of the 90s. The Jeter, the Derek Jeters, the Jorge Posadas, the Bernie Williams, the Mariano Riveras, so on and forth. Because Daddy War, you know what I mean? There's only one Daddy War. Daddy Warbucks is bomber, so I can't. Everybody can't be Daddy Warbucks. I'm sorry. You hired very capable people, and you let them be capable. You collected your money. You sat in your place of prominence. It worked. You won. The people were happy. They were willing to invest and contribute. You got your Yes Network. You're printing money. It worked. All right. And the wrench, the monkey wrench, and the whole thing was that we can't, that hovering. You just have to, you know what I mean? There's only so many. Everybody can't be a. Everybody can't be a Don Corleone and have their hands on the string. That ain't for everybody. I'm going to take Thibs up off the screen for now, but now they've been put on notice in terms of what's going down this weekend. Been put on notice. Okay, we're going to come back to this. All this Thibs slanderation that we done had going on. Okay, folks. So yeah, Sacramento, we're gonna be here for a little bit of the second half. I know it's halftime right now. Watching the halftime show. We got some of the hardest working people in show business. Referencing specifically Mr. Stephen A. Smith. Hardest working men, you know what I mean? Right? Talk about, and I'm fortunate to have one of the things I picked up from NBA on TNT, and one of the many things, and Ernie and Johnson, one of the things I borrowed, that he talked about is, having a get to versus a got to. And inside the NBA is, just a institution, has been for many years, and it's unfortunate TNT shut it down and it's moving over to ESPN and keeping the group together, as I understand it, which is great for everybody. Okay, times change, but if it's not broke, we don't need to fix it. One thing Ernie Johnson talks about is, I got to get to job, not a got to. He says, I got to get to. I get to do this. I don't have a got to. I have to do. I got to get to, not a got to. That's what I got. And I always remember he said that. And that's true in my life, fortunately. Do things get a little bit, touch and go at times? Do you need, to make it into those safe ports, during the storms? Yes, indeed. Those times of rest and rejuvenation, we all need it. We need the self-care. You can't let yourself get burnt out. But, in the grand scheme of things, I got get tos. I enjoy the things that I have get a chance to take part in. I'm fortunate. I don't need to have some gratitude in relation to that. Okay, my man Endicott, talking about the daily dose of gratitude. All right, what is it? Stephen A. Smith, halftime show. Mavs under capable leadership of Jason Kidd are taking it to the Kings. When they really shouldn't be. With no Luka, with no Kyrie, with all this uncertainty, with people saying you can't record a freaking press conference. Well, what the heck is a press conference for? And the Mavs are still winning. All right, that goes to culture, that goes to coaching. Shout out to Jason Kidd. Okay, but yeah, halftime show, Stephen A. Smith. I mean, this guy, first take, Stephen A. Smith show, doing the basketball, flying all over the place. Think about another guy, Shannon Sharp, same thing. You got Nightcap, got Club Shay Shay. He's on, on first take. All the times when people see the success, are you seeing the grind? Are you seeing the hunger that these folks are, even when you have the success? Not resting on your laurels, staying super duper hungry. Okay, on this point, we may get into a little bit of and I gotta X out of companies, you know what I mean? I gotta X out. You know, we're doing good in terms of our what in the Sam Hill? What's going on here? We are doing good. Got a whole bunch of these screens open. Come on back. Okay, I gotta. Yeah, we got to get this for you on the screen, folks. Talking about trust in the process. Oh, I got it. No, what are we talking about? I'm trying to. We be talking about speaking of trust in the process and staying hungry. Take a look at Jay Leno's garage. I'll take a look at Jay Leno's garage right quick. And what does this have to do with those 2 points of staying hungry? I appreciate this. Hold on. Can I see? No, bring the call back to where it needs to be. The call went to another window, but yeah, we're gonna bring it back here. Okay, but I appreciate that it was over there. What's the connection point here? And you're only seeing and people that know the Jay Leno's garage, it's just, you know what I mean? Why does he have all, he has a car for every day of the year? And Jay Leno, who was the guy, late night, took over for Johnny Carson, was the next one after Johnny Carson, and then held the crown for, a good 2 decades. What the heck? Messing with my screen here. No thanks. Come back. Thank you. One of the things that Jay Leno talks about, and shout out to Comedian, really good documentary, about, the life of comics, following Jerry Seinfeld after he left, Seinfeld, and, he's come back, done, a couple of different things, and he's still collecting those Seinfeld checks. Yes, indeed. Excuse me. But Comedian was a really good doc. But, one of the things about Jay Leno that is when he was the guy at NBC making the, whatever it was, annually that, NBC was going to pay him because the show had the ratings. And so you're going to pay him the money. And, he had it going on. And Jay Leno's from I believe he's from Massachusetts. Let's look that up. I forget what part of Massachusetts he's from. I think he's from like the greater Boston area. And grinded and took him time to, you don't just become the next Johnny Carson without, doing your due diligence and all the rest of that stuff. But the point is this, folks, when he became the guy, he didn't touch any of the NBC money. He only lived off of the stand-up money, the grind money. And he squirreled away all the NBC 20, 30, 40, whatever it was, millions annually. That was, I'm not touching that. I'm staying hungry. Just like I was when I was building this up. We ain't moving over. We ain't gonna get Hollywood just because we're in Hollywood and getting hot. You know what I mean? No, I'm denying. I'm pushing all that aside. I live off the stand-up money, the hunger money. Meaning you have these. You're doing these jobs. People are tired. You got to spend time with. It's work is work, people. You don't just get the production. It takes work. When something is quality, it took work to get that quality. Let's remember that. Always understand that. It took work. So you're tired, regardless of what your level, you're tired. And, you got to have the regimentation, so on and forth. But within that, Jay Leno said, you know what I mean? Somebody called me, they need me for this little corporate gig over here, and I got to book it. And I got to, okay, I spend this time with the fam, and we're doing this, but somebody want me to do this over there. I was going to play some golf with my buddies. No, they can wait, book it. I'm going to get it. Oh, but I'm only going to have a half a day because I got to get back to do the show again. Somebody book it. Yes. He stayed hungry through all that success. And so that's how you get, this Jay Leno's Garage, which is another venture they, you know what I mean? So when it comes to, you look at yeah, he wasn't burning through all of that money, that money was being stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked so that he could have in his retirement, he's a car nut, so he collects and sells and trades and all that stuff, so that's what he, in his golden years. You know what I mean? It's instructive, particularly the challenge of, when you see the child prodigies that, are given so much so soon and they don't have the chance to develop, and how, you can't skip those steps. Whether you gloss it up, whether, you know what I mean, and so, you can't skip them. They just can't be skipped. You end up repeating them in adulthood, which is much harder, obviously. Kings are getting slapped. Shouldn't have fired Mike Brown. Down 24. 9+ to go in the third quarter. Right? It's not that you can't, right? Sometimes you have to relearn, and you have to go through it again in your 20s, sometimes even your 30s or later. And you can still get it, turn things around, turn yourself around. And, right, you look at people that have done that. I think, think about Mike Tyson, who's turned himself around and got on a much better path. And, right? And you're happy to see when people can do that. But it's harder than, you think, especially working, in education with young people and going through the adolescence and the Rumspringa, this is, and it's certainly challenging. It's supposed to be challenging. Again, back to Jimmy Dugan. It's hard for a reason. Okay. But it's also better to do it once and get it over with. Get that hard over with, and don't ever forget that, because you're gonna keep coming back to those hardships at every phase of the way through the journey. Back to Jay Leno, who never forgot when he was a struggling comic, with a couple bucks in his pocket, going from gig to gig, building himself up, learning the craft, learning the business. People, his friends, seem to have been sprinting ahead of him, and they had jobs, they had investments, and he's just this comic and doesn't look like it's working out, what are you doing? And, there was a time when those successful people that we know were on the other end, and people were looking at them with the side eyes, laughing at him, chuckling, so-and-so thought they were going to laughing, right? Your people, they'll pat you on the head, give you, but behind your back, you know what I mean? These guys, who do they think they are? I remember seeing a similar thing, Ed Sheeran, who was up in the Commonwealth. He did a gig in Ipswich, which is pretty cool. Seems to be that type of guy that just, but Ed Sheeran talks about his journey, and he had to battle and struggle over in England for some years. And then finally he just said, I got to go to LA. I just got to go to LA. That's where things happen. And he took his show to LA, started from the bottom, and he's Ed Sheeran today. Right? But you hold on to the struggle, the grind that you go through. And especially, when you go through it, the coming of age, it's just super difficult. It's going to be difficult whatever phase of your life you're going to go through it. But I think people see, as difficult as it was, it's better to do that during your adolescent years than having to redo it in your 20s, 30s, or 40s. And then you never let go of that. You never let go of your struggles, so they keep you balanced when you become like Jay Leno, having a car for every single day of the doggone year. Okay. And continuing to find ways to strive and to create and to be innovative, so on and forth. Yes, indeed, folks. Time is moving on the SandCity Sport. We an hour and 15, and you know what I mean. We just could go for long. You know what I mean. Got a little bit more to get to for sure. Playing games. Shout out to Jason Kidd. Respect on his name. Games on the road. Team has just just been hit with a front end loader. Just what do they call that? A wrecking ball. That's what the Dallas Mavericks have been hit with. And nonetheless, J Kidd just keeps it pushing. Getting these critical wins. They will play Memphis. Again, advantage Grizzlies, but Grizzlies who gave Golden State a really good run for their money. Grizzlies who are also with this foolishness in terms of firing capable coaches for no good reason. You think it's a good reason, but it's not a good reason. So I lean towards Memphis, who they played a really good game against Golden State on the road. To come back tied, it was back and forth. They were solid. So advantage Grizzlies, who, interestingly enough, they were the 2 seed for so long in the season, before they got rid of Taylor Jenkins. But anyway. And so now the Grizzlies are looking at, you're the 2 seed all year. Now you got to face OKC in the first round. So, yeah. How the West was won. Okay, folks. So yes, I appreciate the people on the Facebook checking in. Yes, sir. I appreciate my main man Lou from the LES with the checking in with me on the IG. Appreciate you, Lou. To the business. It means a lot. Shout out to 41A. Men's fellowship. It's really great to stay connected with guys that I knew in college and that really had an impact on me in college. And just staying connected with that group is huge. The men's fellowship. Because we're meant to be in community and support each other, through the day to day. And, you're not alone. Right. And those types of things. Okay, let's check over. I got some notifications. I appreciate Shamika on Twitter. Appreciate the love. Shane from Des Moines. Shout outs. Appreciate that most certainly. What are we looking at here? Third quarter, fourth quarter now. Oh, still third, 20 piece. I mean, basketball, you don't, it's a game of runs. I'm not going to get too political, but some of these updates are wild about who's losing what battles are being fought. Hey, I guess it's a product of democracy. Most certainly is. Okay, and so we're going to, and this is my people. Hold on. What's going on here? Our local sports teams are balling, which we love to see. Our local sports teams are out there getting it. This is bad production, so let's, I'm not, we don't do a live stream just to be scrolling over here. But we're going to finish with a couple things for the culture. Everybody out there. So what happens when this goes on, I appreciate everybody on the IG, but because I draw from IG in order to to get some of the clips, and I'm working on that, doing the clips from like a YouTube another platform other than IG, even though IG just got a lot of slice of life cultural stuff. The IG ends in effect So you can go and check it out on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or wherever else. But you might just be watching or not. You might not be able to do that. So I just want to say, as we get ready to, okay, Kings cutting into 16. As we get ready to shift gears and do some of the stuff, for the culture. Appreciate everybody on IG for rocking with SandCity Sports tonight. And we're going to try to troubleshoot this and get it right going forward. Much love, all the IG folks. Respect. Okay, so let's come over to the IG. And we got to switch the account. Hold on. I actually might not need to switch the account. I actually don't, which is crazy. So we're still live. We're still good. I don't need to switch the account. So hold on. This might be good. I don't need to switch the account. But sometimes when another IG is open, it does what it does. It's going to be what it's going to be. It's going to be what it's going to be. But we're going to do this. We're going to get this slice of life stuff going on. Shout out to, we got some stuff, some economic stuff, some cultural stuff. Where do we want to start? We're going to hold off on, okay. Let's get this first clip for the people. So much. I'm gonna scroll up. And then we're gonna make our way back down. Okay. We're gonna make our way. Okay, so we talked about Navy SEALs. Yes, some great clips. Yeah, we gotta talk about getting it. We're gonna talk about going for it. So that's where we're going with this clip. To start with, we're gonna do 3 clips for the culture, and then SandCity Sports is gonna be up and out of there. Okay, the live stream is still rocking with me, so we're gonna appreciate that. We're gonna appreciate that for sure. We're gonna get it as long as we can get it. So again, in terms of choosing your adventure, right, in life, and you can be on that complaining train, or you can be on that cutting edge train, and that we're gonna just continue to live and thrive and strive, first of all, so that we can be thriving. But this is amazing to me, this community society of folks that are rock climbers, and they have it where they have to as you're climbing a doggone mountain, and so they rest hooked up while they're climbing these doggone mountains. It's just unbelievable. Yes, let's go to the next slide. Right? These are couples. What? We're talking about what's possible. I'm here doing a passion project, Zooming, and the world is Zoom, and putting this and that and third together, and it's difficult, it's challenging, for me on my level, but the society of, rock climbers, mountain climbers, however you want, rock climbing. Let me get this right. It's just unreal. Now again, Daredevil, these guys you're latched in, they're connected to the, it's not a quote unquote what I would understand it to be a free climb, which is a whole other thing. But you say to yourself, just what is possible? And if you feel, like me, is frightened of heights, I can feel myself getting, a little bit almost like if I'm, climbing or moving or doing something, feel myself getting a little bit anxious. So, we got a society sometimes of complainers. And then again, there's those folks that's on the cutting edge. We got some deep stuff. Not gonna go that. Not gonna go in that direction right now. Yeah, we're gonna take a look. Because one episode we might want to have to we might get super duper, do some political. Now I'm not gonna get too political. We'll do some ethics stuff. Ethics is the intersection between morality and power. Power and what should be, what ought to be. And so I got a couple things that are really interesting that we will touch on. You always want to do it respectfully. But for the second one, we're gonna get beautiful thing. The live stream is continuing to rock with us, so I will take that. I'm not going to take that for granted in any way, shape, or form. But I want to get some perspective in terms of the carousel that we've seen. In terms of coaching, and this whole logic that you don't need a coach, I don't need a coach, anybody can be a coach. Yeah. Let's take a look at that.
Among the coaching staff, I think one thing that's happened is most teams are now owned by billionaires, big corporations, and so we're all more expendable. There's so much money in the business now, and there's pluses and minuses to that. We're all making bigger salaries than we were 5 years ago, but we're all much more vulnerable because I don't think a lot of the owners are that concerned with firing a guy and paying him off to go away. And again, this is a business we chose, and we all love it. But it's it's not the most stable profession, that's for sure.
How overall
one more
teams are
time for Steve
reacting
Kerr.
to movement among the coaching staff?
Shout out to
I
The
think
Wire.
one
What
thing
did we
that's
learn from David
happened
Simon
is,
in The Wire?
Most
It's all in
teams
the
are
game.
now
Go ahead, Steve Kerr.
owned
Let him know.
by,
It's all in the
billionaires,
game. Go ahead.
big corporations, and so we're all more expendable. There's so much money in the business now, and there's pluses and minuses to that. We're all making bigger salaries than we were 5 years ago, but we're all much more vulnerable because I don't think a lot of the owners are that concerned with firing a guy and paying him off to go away. And again, this is a business we chose, and we all love it. But it's it's not the most stable profession, that's for sure.
How overall teams are
Hey, somebody that's right there in it, that has a good mindfulness and consciousness about what's going on and appreciation, so on and forth, and just that that he gave a different angle on it. Because, one thing, if I'm looking at the Suns, it's tremendous instability. And another thing, you're going to pay me 5 years, 4 years of salary to coach for 1 year. I can't be that mad if I'm Coach Bud, or, you bring a guy in on a 5-year deal, you get rid of him in 1 year or a couple weeks, and okay, you want to pay me? I'll work a year for 5 years pay doing something I love. I mean, if that means that much to you, you do it your way. I'll just keep getting these checks. Shout out to Bobby Bonilla. It seemed like all these NBA coaches got that Bobby Bonilla Day thing going on, whereas, you know what I mean? It gets nice outside. I forget when Bobby. I look forward when I got. Now that I brought it up, we have to have this specific. I think it's like July 1st. That's what I'm. And there's some baseball. You know what I mean? I'm saying July 1st. It is. Bobby Bonilla is going to get $1.2 million until 2035 on Bobby Bonilla Day. 10 more years. Bobby Bonilla retired. He retired like 2 decades ago. He's like, I'm going to spread my contract out. I got, I'm going to manage my money right. I'm going to invest here, invest there, and live within my means. So July 1st, baby, that's Bobby Bonilla Day. First day of July. It's a beautiful time in New England, specifically. The weather turns and summer. The 4th of July is the height and the official start of the summer on the Cape and Islands. So it's bumping. But that Bobby Bonilla Day, get that 1.2 mils for another 10 years. And he retired 20 years ago. Oh, I repeated myself, but it's crazy. But anyway, that's the situation for NBA coaches right now. They on the Bobby Bonilla Day. That's what they doing. Right? You want to just keep paying me, because you have to do it your way. Well, I'm out of a job, but, hey, Cabo 1-3. Let's get it. Let's get it. Okay, folks, so we're going to do one more. We're going to do one more for the culture. Okay. What was this? Okay, it's good take. Caron Butler take. All right. Let's see. We're going to do yeah. We talked about this, and we're going to finish, I think, appropriately, about the struggle and about the journey that you have to be on to get to where you're going. A lot of people dating myself, but hey, we would remember an NBA player. His name was Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. Okay, but in his formative years, he was an absolute tour de force. His name was Chris Jackson. Okay, talk about his journey.
It was showtime last night in Gulfport, Mississippi. This prep basketball powerhouse beginning defense of its state championship. He's Chris Jackson at 6'1", the highest rated high school point guard in the nation. Last night, just a typical performance, 30 points in just 3 quarters of play. His Admirals were ahead 11-0 in the first 2 minutes, cruised to their 36th win in 38 games. He shoots 87% from the line, 57% from the field. Many of those shots come from three-point range, like this one that came at the end of the third quarter last night. Anybody you can compare him to?
Well, he's certainly the best offensive player I've ever coached or ever seen in high school, that's for sure.
I don't usually make a habit of doing stories outside of houses, but then this is a special house. Maybe it's not the house that's special, it's the young man who lives here. He's Chris Jackson, point guard for Gulfport High School. And people come from everywhere to see him, especially basketball coaches. They want him to make his home at their school for the next 4 years because he's the top point guard prospect in the nation.
I'm like a perfectionist. I don't like to do anything wrong, and I don't like to make mistakes, and I just work hard at what I'm doing. I want to be the best at what I'm doing. First, I got a lot of calls, but now it's slacked up. I don't get as many as I used to the first part of the year.
Why do you think that is?
I really don't know. I probably lost interest. I really don't know.
That lack of interest has nothing to do with his basketball ability, but may result from the fact this high scorer only managed a 14 on his ACT, or his plan to wait until after the season to choose a school with his mother.
What's foremost on my mind is who am I going to trust him to?
If Chris Jackson can score 1 point higher on his ACT next month, you can bet he'll be scoring a lot of points for some college team next fall. His quickness, unquestioned. His shooting, unstoppable.
That's mainly all I do when I'm, out there practicing. I just shoot a lot and concentrate, and I try to, think of new things to do, and I think that's helped.
For every point he scores, it seems Jackson gets another letter. While he's vowed to put recruiting on the back burner for now, he does have 3 favorites.
Yes, North Carolina. I'm looking at them a little bit in Georgetown and LSU also. I'm looking at them.
It's interesting that the 3 schools you mentioned have such dynamic head coaches.
Yeah, all of them. 3 best in the nation, head coaches.
Get a firm grip. In Gulfport, Steve Schneider, Newsline Sports.
So, Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, would become. Talk about what he was at LSU when a lot of people discuss. Just think, what he did at LSU early on in his career didn't have, he was known for this protest, which was ahead of its time, protected under the First Amendment, by the way, during the national anthem, protected under the First Amendment. But, just at LSU, it was shades of Pete Maravich. I have to say that. Not to that level. He wasn't averaging certainly 44 points a game, as a freshman, but his scoring ability from the point guard spot as an underside, he had a lot of Zeke to him, had a lot of Isaiah, different than AI, right? A little bit more. AI was a lot more to the basket, whereas Jackson and certainly Thomas would shoot the 3 a bit more, but just unguardable. As an undersized point guard, Allen Iverson close to 6 foot, Jackson 6'1", 6'2", so they're not 6'10", 6, you know what I mean? But just so dynamic and explosive. All 3. But then, this is again pre-NIL, so still very close to the struggle. Mississippi. It's a state, that, you got it's a working class state. For sure. So you have these phenoms, but the struggle is close at hand. I think, whether you're in line with, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf or not, but no one can deny, that he is an upstanding, dignified, self-sufficient person. Not like the 6 or 7 and 10 NBA players that's in financial distress, and a lot of times thereby social emotional distress shortly thereafter their retirement. Okay? So that struggle that, he's not living, lived a very humble life in those formative years. And even, once he was this prize recruit, Okay, and that struggle created a foundation, for longevity that others lack. Okay, we juxtapose that to this modern NIL, that we just give, people in their struggle millions and millions of dollars, thereby taking them away from said struggle, or not. Maybe these college kids are investing this money. Hopefully, a good majority are. But too much too soon is the other side of that coin. Okay, folks. So the Mavs. Let's get this final commercial break, but see what the Mavs how. 18, going into the fourth, in control. J Kidd, doing what J Kidd does, coaching them up. And so, looking like they're going to advance to play the Grizzlies. Bulls out of there, Kings out of there. The Bulls will be back. Kings, dumpster fire. And so we're going to have, I guess we take tomorrow off. And then we'll have those two games on Friday. Memphis and Detroit. And then the Heat. And the Hawks, right? Quinn Snyder, I respect, a lot of respect for Quinn Snyder. Spoelstra is just, a juggernaut, top tier coach in the league. So two very capable coaches going at in that series. New coach in Memphis. And you're going up against, the established coach in Jason Kidd. And we will see how that goes. Advantage Kidd, in my opinion. And advantage Miami Heat in the other matchup, in my opinion. But folks, thank you so much for rocking with SandCity Sports on this Wednesday edition. It's a beautiful thing. A lot of things going on, vacations coming up, and marathons and basketball, tournaments and playoffs and baseball. So a lot of great stuff to get into, and I'm here for all of it. Okay, so thank you for tuning in to SandCity Sports. I am your host, the Cape Cod Kid, artist formerly known as Andre King. We appreciate you from the bottom. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. And we will see you again the next time. Peace.